It's hard to overstate just how influential H.P. Lovecraft is almost 100 years after his death. I'm talking about horror in general, actually, from literature, obviously. I mean, Stephen King owes a lot of his career to Lovecraft, and movies. Some of the best movies, horror movies, are considered Lovecraftian. The man practically invented a genre of weird fiction. What I mean by that, it's pretty much you can throw anything against the wall, see what sticks. The weirder, the better. So let's talk about a lesser known movie that I found. It's called The Deep House. One of H.P. Lovecraft's most famous quotes is, "The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown." It's hard to argue that. His stories often revolved around that idea, and mostly ending with someone understanding why it's better to not know than come to the horrifying truth, because things rarely worked out in any of his stories. The movie follows a couple, an American and a Brit, who explore abandoned buildings on YouTube. The boyfriend, Ben, played by James Jagger, the son of legendary rocker Mick Jagger, finds out about a building underwater in France that is sure to get them all the clicks. But when Tina and Ben get to the lake, it's filled with locals and tourists playing in the water. Ben then spends a decent amount of time sulking about their wasted effort. While he begrudgingly agrees to forget about it and just enjoy their time at the lake, Ben comes across an older man named Pierre. Pierre then tells them about an isolated part of the lake that was artificially flooded to prevent worse flooding, and there's actually an intact mansion at the bottom. Naturally, Ben's way on board, but Tina has to be convinced. Despite her misgivings for the trip and the way Pierre keeps leering at her, she agrees. They finally arrive at the spot and dive in. Once they're in the water, they realize Pierre was telling the truth about this place. But they find out he left out a lot. I love the idea of this movie so much. These people are underwater at the bottom of a lake, so immediately the stakes are about as high as they can possibly be for two people. The oxygen supply is a constant issue, especially when the house refuses to let them leave, and knowing that a single moment of carelessness could cost them their lives. It has a very tense atmosphere that keeps throughout the entire thing. For a while, they're just swimming around the house, and it's such a unique atmosphere watching them get around. The movie switches through different cameras a lot. You get the found footage stuff from the cameras attached to their helmets, you have their underwater drone, and then there's your normal camera shots too. I much prefer this to the found footage style of filming. You can still have your hectic shots, but you give your viewers a chance to actually focus on something. Eventually the couple realizes they're in a whole lot of trouble when the way they came in is covered by a brick wall that wasn't there before. Then they find out no matter how hard they smash on the glass, the windows aren't breaking or even scratching. They're trapped inside this house, and their oxygen supply is running out. To make matters worse, they find a secret room and two bodies chained up, perfectly preserved despite being underwater for a very long time. Then things get even worse again when those bodies wake up and start chasing them around. The chase scenes are a lot of fun because they're different. The entire chase being a swim while their pursuers seem to float adds a new wrinkle and something newish to what you've seen thousands of times before. I really enjoyed watching them try to get away because they're incredibly tense moments. Now, eventually they learn the histories of those chasing them and that of the house and how Pierre set them up. Outside of knowing he was a baddie because I've watched horror movies before, the movie makes it painfully obvious in the beginning when he says his family motto is, "That is not dead which can eternal lie," which we all know the end of that Lovecraft quote is, "And with strange eons, even death may die." The movie does tension really well, and at times you feel yourself getting closer to the edge of your seat. The visual of the man and the woman chained up in the basement floating in the water is really good, and the way they chase after our heroes is creepy in all the right ways. But the problem with this type of movie is finding a way to tie everything together, and it kind of felt like the worst part of the Silent Hill movie, where they don't know how to explain everything near the end, so they just throw it all right in your face. I really didn't think it was necessary either. We could tell these people were bad, and I think it would have been more effective to let us fill in the blanks. The ending, though, it's as big as a gut punch as you can expect in a movie like this. but I didn't hate it. It was telegraphed a bit at the beginning and hammered home a little more in a later conversation. Still, it's difficult to watch, and the movie almost gleefully shows you a camera shot letting you know the struggle is in vain. It's sad, but an incredibly effective way to show it. There's also an end credit scene where we find Pierre bringing another group of intrepid explorers to the mansion, which is just silly. When you think about all the things that had to fall into place to get Ben and Tina to take this trip, and then he finds another couple right after, come on movie, don't do that. 7.5 Dr. Chainsaw.